So if you try to do a dopamine detox to really recover your pleasure system, but you find yourself falling back into the old ways and you can't have success with it, this video will be incredibly helpful for you, because I'll share with you what is really essential to understand and to see to actually not fail and not revert back to your old habits. So in my life I tried multiple times to do dopamine detoxing and to really understand how the dopamine system works by watching the mind and studying it deeply. And I really see how valuable this is, but as I said, it's difficult to really stick with it. And lately I was super anhedonic, couldn't really get pleasure out of anything at all. So I just knew that I had to get serious about it and go on a dopamine detox really deeply. So now I'm on it. I decided to do it for 30 days and I'm at some days in, and I really start to see how my dopamine system is healing, and it's quite amazing. But in this period I saw again things that I already saw about how the dopamine system works, and seeing these things really clearly in your mind will help you to not fail if you are on a dopamine detox. So let's start with the first one, which is that it will feel way worse in the beginning. So when you start, you will have a period of some days up to a week and a half, where you will feel worse, and this can be way worse than how you were before. But you have to really keep in mind that it's only a period, and after that it will be uphill. And this is a critical period because it's where most people go back to their old habits, and I did the same, and it's really a risky part. But the way here to not fall into the trap is to really be conscious of that fact. Be conscious of the fact that in this period you have removed what was giving you pleasure, all the instant gratification that was giving you pleasure. So now that you remove them, you will just feel way worse and you will not feel pleasure from other things. So your mind will think, well, if I'm not having more pleasure, if it's not getting better, why the hell should I go on with this? It's just worse. But the fact is that it's only for a period. Don't trust your mind for at least 2 weeks while you are in this period, and just stick with it. Commit to at least 2 weeks, and then you can make a conclusion. Don't make a conclusion while you are on this critical period. So my second point comes in the form of a metaphor, and is that you really have to understand that eating sugar will never actually fulfills you like real food, and will make real food tasteless, because your dopamine will get fucked, and so only sugar itself will be enough to trigger your dopamine. So this is a metaphor that you can see with all your activities. Things such as checking social media, or checking your notification on your phone, or watching a YouTube video. In the end, it's literally like eating sugar. It is pleasurable in the moment, really pleasurable, but it leaves you empty. And you already know that, I'm sure, but really seeing that, and this metaphor makes it really clear, because it's exactly the same with food. Really seeing that prevents you from indulging in that, because when you have that mechanical need, compulsion to go reach for your phone and see that notification, just really stop for a moment and be conscious of the mechanical movement, the mechanical need to do that, and see how you are just literally reaching for sugar. It's nothing else than that, and it will leave you empty, worse than before. So you don't have to act out the reaction, the mechanical reaction that arises up when you have the craving. You will have this mechanical reaction to act it out, but remember that you don't need to do it. You can actually just let it arise and don't react to it. And the more conscious, the easier it will be for you to do that. Another point to keep in mind is that an healthy pleasure system, once is really recovered, is way better than the one that you have now. And the mind can really trick you on that. Maybe you subconsciously know that because you went a little bit in of a dopamine detox and saw the benefit, but you really have to dig deep into your mind this fact that once your system is recovered, it's really a healthy, pleasurable system. Like with the sugar example, you will enjoy normal food and it will fulfill you. So you will enjoy activities that you actually want to do, such as working out or working on a project or whatever you want to do. The thing is that when you are used to sugar, only the sugar is enough pleasure for you. And the normal food seems like nothing at all, but only the real food can fulfill you. So when you have a pleasurable system which is recovered, you will be able to actually consume real food and derive pleasure from it. And this will not be a fake pleasure that leaves you empty, but it will be pleasurable and fulfilling. So just imagine if all the activities that you actually want to do became pleasurable, and even such simple things as watching the sunset or sitting down and meditating or writing, this will become much more fulfilling and actually pleasurable. And the thing is that once your system gets recovered, you will stop to have all this compulsion for sugar, for this reaching out of the instant pleasure. That's because you will just see how destructive and empty it is, and so you will lose literally the desire for it. And this is a really crucial point, because once this starts to happen, it's much more easier to stick on the program and really start to enjoy the effects of a recovered system. And another thing that will help you to succeed with this, and is in line with what I just said, is to develop healthy addictions, such as working out or anything that is actually working for you rather than against you. All these things, such as checking social media, junk food, etc., they are not working for you, they are working against you. And a clear sign of a recovered pleasure system is the fact that you'll see that the pleasure system, the dopamine system, will work for you, not against you. So this developing of positive addiction helps you to really go in line with this kind of system, this recovered system, which will work as is intended for nature, because your pleasure system is not intended, it's not designed to be used as we are using it right now. Right now we are just hijacking it, we are just fooling it by having super high stimulus which are empty of substance, which doesn't require any effort of your part, which are just an consumption that gets the most pleasure possible, rather than attaching the pleasure to things that are actually beneficial for you. Your pleasure system is designed to move you towards things that are beneficial and useful for you, and away from things that are not. So just imagine recovering your system and being able to use it like that. I'm just starting to see how a system like that is, and it's really incredible and so worth it. It's much better than a system which is sick really and not functioning properly, which is the result of all this hijacking that we do to our minds, and which is so easy to do with all the pleasurable things that we have in modern society. So my last point is to realize that less is more, but for real. I am a super hedonistic by nature person, and I tend to seek pleasure a lot, really a lot. But the more I get into an healthy system, the more I realize that having less pleasure is actually more pleasure, because this seeking pleasure for its own sake, as I said, just destroy your system and leaves you unable to actually experience pleasure, to actually experience pleasure on a day-to-day level, to actually experience pleasure in the things that you want to do, not just on really short spikes. So by seeking less super high pleasurable activities all the time, you're actually getting way more. So when you start to really embrace this empty space that remains when you stop to fill it out with useless distractions and dopamine spikes, at the beginning it will be really uncomfortable because you will not be able to escape it, and that's what you are doing all the time, and that's what we are so used to do, and we can do thanks to all this distraction, thanks to all these instant gratifications that are available to us. Well, once you really ground yourself in this space where there is way less stimulation and movement, you will see that that's where real life is. That's what you have been missing, the space itself. We are so cluttered in our mind by all this that we think it's normal living, and we just escape at the slightest hint of boredom and space. But actually, we are losing that space, and that space, it's amazing. It's life itself. In that space, in that slower path of living, you will find your natural living. You will find natural pleasure, which is much more extended in time rather than short spikes. And you will start to gain back your real life. See, due to the fact that our dopamine baseline is so low, we need to constantly seek these spikes to maintain us on that level, on a normal level. But when you go through the first period, which is the critical period, which is the first point that I told you in this video, you will be able to enjoy the empty space, and you will not feel the need to escape from it. You will feel the pleasure of being in that space. Your thinking will be much more clear because you will not have all that junk running around your mind, and you will have the relief to be able to actually be present and have pleasure in that, which is impossible when your dopamine levels are not recovered. Thanks to that, thanks to not moving from this space, which is the now, all the time, you will come in contact with something much deeper, with yourself, with your core, with your essence, with your being, with your consciousness. You will come really in close contact with yourself. And by staying in yourself, you will see that in the end, that's the real jewel that you lost. That's where the real quote-unquote pleasure is. That's where true happiness is, not in all this pleasure that we seek. Those are just distractions that you use to numb our pain, which is way deeper, and that can be discovered and healed once we really get back and understand ourselves totally. So I really hope that you find the video useful, and I'm sure that if you really understand these points, grasp them with your mind deeply and implement them, just contemplate them a little bit, really think about them, and you will start to see them in your own experience, and you will be able to implement them and to be successful on your dopamine detox. And remember that this is much better than the normal sick system that we are sadly all used to. So if you're interested in raising your consciousness, understanding your mind, and really living an authentic and fulfilling life, subscribe to this channel. I will continue to post useful video about that. And with that said, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I see you. If you want to grab the Depression Handbook or do an holistic self-improvement coaching call with me for free, both links are in the description.